I'm Arne Smolders, founder and CEO of AcademicLabs, and in this session, we will go through a practical tutorial on how you can use scientific intelligence and AI in smart ways to go from an idea to creating a collaboration opportunity in under a minute, ideally. And I'm going to show you how you can scale that up, how you can get the right contacts, etc. So this is part of the Impact SkillBuilder series of the Research Impact Academy. 8 years ago, I met Dr. Tomika Heide for the first time, being interviewed for the Research Impact Summit, and I'm glad 8 years later we're still here serving some of the biggest pharma and biotech companies, as well as a lot of scientists in reaching a lot of researchers and companies, doing company landscaping reports in different ways, etc. And finally, how you can do it yourself today. So there will be a free pass to use AcademicLabs for a couple of days, and then special discounts thanks to the Research Impact Academy for you to benefit from. All right. So maybe as a starting point, this is something that I think a lot of people recognize, all our customers recognize this. They have bright ideas, they have scientific or strategic questions. Now to get to the answer, it's navigating through a labyrinth, and a 3D labyrinth that is also moving in time. So it's pretty complicated. There's a lot of research happening. There's publications, there's patents, there's clinical studies, there are new grants, there's information shared in news on company web pages. You can use Copilot, which is not that good, but it hallucinates a lot. It's not comprehensive. It's not using the latest scientific signals, etc. So it comes with a lot of challenges, and all this scattered research is truly blocking an outcome from going from an idea to impactful innovation. And that's something we set out to solve with AcademicLabs. That was our main goal initially, and that's still our main goal. So generally, our philosophy is we try to bring transparency to the scientific ecosystem so you can see what's happening and who's doing that science. And that's important. We really focus on who's doing what kind of science. We also try to connect the dots because you can be overwhelmed by so much information that we bring together. We want to filter out the noise and help you find the needle in the haystack. I'm going to show you some examples of that practically to this topic of the session. And by eliminating friction in this part, the real goal is to not only have the big pharma with expensive tools being able to do high impact research, or the top researchers, the most budgets and so on. No, we want to level the playing field. We want to make sure everyone has the intelligence and the AI capabilities at their fingertips to turn more bright ideas into impactful discoveries and innovations. Then there's also the point of, okay, this could be pretty expensive, and we could do like many other companies, sell to the biggest pharma companies, has the biggest budgets and focus purely on that. But we said, no, we want to democratize access. We want to make sure anyone can use this kind of solution. And we simply accommodate the price to budget, more or less the size of the organization and the type of user, etc. And then finally, a lot of software is annoying to use. All these different solutions work differently, which is make it very difficult. It introduces a lot of friction. So we really try to bring a harmonized experience, going further for every feature. We try to think deeper on how can we make that part easier so that we can really go for a wow moment for you, and that you can really find things that otherwise you would not identify. So just this a bit as a background. So going back to this challenge of how to get to the maze, going from idea to some clarity. A lot of our customers, and especially pharma and biotech, but also academics looking for collaborators, they can, for example, search for who could be rising star researchers on CAR-T solid tumors in California who got grants in the recent years on this topic. If you do this in this way, it takes a long time to do that. In AcademicLabs, in just 4 clicks, in just 5 seconds, you find the rising stars on that topic. Plus, in 1 click, you have an assessment of how well this rising star fits your specific criteria with justification, with evidence, and so on. So it's literally in 5 clicks, in just a few seconds, you find what you need. And that's the essence of AcademicLabs with our platform. And it's not only finding academic collaborators or experts, it's also about finding corporate partners, going from an abstract or technology, identifying the right companies, because we bring together all life science companies and beyond in one place, connecting to all their science, not only the publication, but also the patents, the grants, the clinical studies, their news articles, their web pages that we search through, and so on. You can then ask a question to assess collaboration potential, and then you have your assessment with some strategic positioning and messaging suggestions. And color highlight that in more detail in a few minutes. We have a few videos on that, but this video will be more important. And then very shortly, you can also do it to identify novel research, let's say on new targets for solid tumors. You find the right publication, you can select via a lot of criteria, the right ones. And then, for example, only the ones with companies affiliated in the last year in top journals, for example, clinical publications. And then ask the AI to identify any novel targets amongst those, for example, top 50 publications and the companies involved. You can even take this further and scale that up to not just analyze 50 publications, but let's say analyze 1,500 filed patents. And then you can have AI generating 20 questions you can ask, and then it's assessing within a minute 1,500 patents, providing 20 answers. Well, answers to 20 questions for each of those 1,500 patents, identifying the disease it's focused on, the novelty type, the target, and so on. So you could use this specific data to have an assessment of your competition, of the landscape. You could drop it in Copilot or ChatGPT or another LLM to generate synthesis landscape reports and quantifiable measures as well. I'm going to very quickly address this as well in the context of finding partners. So overall, we are a platform, a scientific intelligence platform that is really focused on who's doing what scientifically and helping you in many different ways. So it's not only finding those in academia, but also those in industry. We have a lot of different types of users, from academia to pharma and everyone in between, from biotech to suppliers, enablers, and also beyond life science. And for a lot of reasons, landscaping, finding partners, finding experts, understanding the state-of-the-art literature study, trend analysis, finding investors, etc. And overall, it helps people to be much more data-driven in making important scientific or strategic decisions with more confidence because they have the right data at their fingertips, and this way do better science, have more impact, and have an edge on competition eventually. So it's not just small companies using this. The biggest pharma companies in the world are using our platform, relying on our platform with the fastest scaling innovative companies as well. We have a lot of academics using our platform, so he wouldn't be the first one trying this out. Now let's jump into the specific tutorial. I have prepared a few cases, and I'm going to open up the right page here. All right. So this is where you land on our platform with 150,000 research groups, 18 million researchers, 136,000 companies, grants from all over the world, clinical studies, publications, patents, news, research happening today in the universities, etc. So all of that is available to you. So let's say we go for a topic, or let's jump to Australia for the Research Impact Academy. Comes from this region. So let's say Australia, and we pick from the University of Melbourne. So the first idea is, let's start from the publications that University of Melbourne has. So let's start from the idea of, do we have some publication or portfolio happening at our university that could be valorized? We could say, for example, related to biomarkers. So we're looking now in the publications of Melbourne University. We also have a lot of other data here. We find the publications. Let's sort by the most recent publications. We could filter by other criteria as well, if like companies are involved, etc., or by more specific topics, by citation counts, etc. Now, instead of reading individual publications, I want to use the AI to help me figure out which ones have potential for valorization. So this is a page that is accessible to you. I shared it on the slides. I'll share it at the end again, so you can have access to these resources, from which I will take some examples. So for this option here, we can start from the university publications and then ask the question, which of these publications have most potential impact? Select the first option to analyze 50 most recent publications, then say which of these publications have most potential for valorization. Select only those that lack a company-affiliated co-author so that we filter those out. List specific IDs for valorization with different types of stakeholders, and then suggest a simple query to find those. Click Analyze, and now it's analyzing these 50 most recent publications and identifies which ones have potential for valorization and comes up with some specific IDs, search query, what kind of stakeholders could be relevant, etc. So let's say we pick the first one. I'm going to open this publication here. So let's look into this one specifically. This one is related to PARP inhibitors. So here we have the abstract of the publication. We see all the authors with affiliations. Now, what we want to do is look at this abstract and see, okay, what could be relevant potential partners. If we go back here, it says pharma companies developing PARP inhibitors and then some query, but this is actually a bad query. So that's a bad example. I could have been more specific in using and or operators, for example. Now, let's look maybe into some companies. Let's switch back to the screen here and search for PARP. So we immediately see any kind of research on PARP. And let's click the companies. It, by the way, searches for synonyms, so you don't have to think about that. So now we see 1,800 companies doing something on PARP. Now, which ones could be most relevant? You don't have time to assess all of them. So we could look into those that, for example, raised a Series A or Series B or more later stage, Series C or D, the fast scaling biotechs. They have money, they might need to extend their pipeline, so that could be an opportunity. Or we could say we look for those with more than 10,000 employees, basically the big pharma or the big players. We could combine it with those that are developing drugs, therapeutics companies, and then see actually the large pharma companies. Could also say, okay, I only want to find those that are developing diagnostics, if that would be relevant. And then we can look into those specific organizations. We could as well go for the clinical stage companies or preclinical therapeutic startups. So many different options. Now let's dive into these 654 that have at least a clinical stage program on any topic. We could say those that are doing clinical trials on PARP. That's also possible that we just select those that have a PARP trial in any given year. Let's start with this one. So we see, for example, Myriad Genetics has 6 trials on this topic, 39 patents, 51 publications, a web page match, and a news article at least. So what happens now, we see research about Myriad Genetics. We see stage of the company. We see extra information. We see who they're partnering with, if that could be relevant in the top 50 organizations. Now, more importantly, it has a summary of the research that they do on PARP. So I can immediately see, okay, what do they do? I can dive into specific research that they do on, see the publications and the clinical studies and etc. But in this case, I want to assess the collaboration potential. So what I do is I click on collaboration potential. And here I have 2 things that I can fill in. So we want to evaluate a company for collaboration potential. And I'm going to start from this publication abstract. So based on my latest research, does this company show signs of benefiting from it? Identify opportunities, develop positioning, compelling messaging, and the type of contacts I should target. So it's already here because I saved it as a default and I already added the abstract here. So you can just copy paste it and then you have it here. And then also collaboration context. I'm looking for new partners and for several options to collaborate. I can save my inputs. I can make this my default analysis every time I visit the company. So I'll share it in a second. And then I can let the AI decide to come up with a query. So it comes up with this one here. Maybe I just want it to as well say search for PARP. So able to see it here. Or I could just use my previous query, but you can play with this. If I click on evaluate, it will do this query within all those documents of Myriad Genetics to identify the 10 most recent documents, 10 most recent publications on that topic, 10 most recent projects, 10 most recent patents, the web pages, and so on. And then using that information, it will now assess the collaboration potential based on the criteria I had filled in. So after done its assessment, it comes up with collaborator fit score excellent. And what's a justification? It gives some specific things that they are doing. Recent publications, it links to those publications as well. And you can see the evidence and the source and the title of the publication. Some recent patents on the topic, some strategic positioning ideas, how you can do that, and then connect it to, of course, what this company is doing. Some strategic messaging suggestions are large-scale machine learning based. So you can see how you could communicate what you have to this company, and then who could you connect with, R&D leadership in oncology, diagnostics, biomarker development, BD, of course, So it gives you some ideas, which you can then use LinkedIn, or you can on Academic Labs to identify some of these contacts. I will show that in a second. And then maybe summary for my manager, if that would be relevant, or my professor. This is a very quick assessment of such a company. So say I now want to find researchers, contact scientific champions at Myriad Genetics. I can copy basically this whole analysis. I can copy this all here. And then I go to researchers and I click on BARP. So it now does a search for BARP and it identifies 45 researchers within the organization. I could say, okay, who has published at least in the last year on this topic? So the active ones, and we see Kirsten Timms has 43 publications on BARP specifically, also 3 patents. So if I click on Kirsten Timms, I get an instant summary of Kirsten's research on this topic. So it gives you a good idea of some of the topics to see if there's already some relevance. But more importantly, I want to not per se ask collaboration potential, but now I want to have an open-ended question. So here I want to add basically I copy-paste it. I copied the information from the collaboration assessment of Myriad Genetics. So I paste this here. So all this text. And then I go to this resource page where I have the option to evaluate a researcher as potentially excellent scientific champion. So I copy this and add it here. And I say here, given the context listed below on how I might partner with this company, is this a great scientific champion and why? Give me 3 great ideas on how to pitch a potential partnership and draft me a tailored email based on one of these ideas, or 3 I could choose. And of course, this is what I already did. So I can save this input. So I can also ask this for other researchers and make this the default assessment for new other research I might check. And let the AI decide about the query. So it comes up with several of those, but I also want to make sure BARP is in there. All right. So click on evaluate. And now we're going to assess if Kirsten is a good potential champion. What you can also see is we have a LinkedIn link and we have the email address, which you can click on to verify. And yes, it's a verified email. If not, we check on 20 different email finder solutions to find a verified email. Okay, so we have the assessment. So we can have a bit of background of what this person does, key strengths and partnership opportunities, multiple recent patents in this space. We see the key strengths and partnership opportunities assessed. Some details, I'm not familiar with the topic, so it's harder for me to assess. 3 ITs to pitch for a partnership, co-development of next-gen classifiers, integration of these novel prognostic biomarkers, and a tailored email for the co-development, reaching out, building our shared commitment to innovation in this. Our recent work has focused on doing this, given Myriad's leadership and the global reach of the My Choice platform by integrating our gene expression-based and multi-biomarker classifiers with your established framework. This and that could be possible. So seems to be a nice email. You can, of course, tailor it to your needs. So this is an example of an outstanding scientific champion that you can easily find because we have all the data on researchers brought together and then connected to the organization with then the AI doing this kind of assessments on this data. We have the email address, so we could reach out. So another way to also find contacts at the company is for BARP. And this time, let's go for those that have the last funding round to a late stage VC round. Let's pick one. Here's Q Therapeutics. So at the left side, what we typically have is C leadership. So we have a bio, a LinkedIn profile, and an option to find a verified email and 20 different email finder solutions. So we typically have C leadership, often as well VPs or people in charge of R&D, clinical development, business development, and so on. Often they include scientific advisors, board members as well. Now, let's say I have these contacts as an option. I have the researchers. I could also go to the web page. And I see 6 web pages. I could ask about partners. So to see what is being mentioned related to partners. But more importantly, what I could actually do to make my life easy is use the AI. Ask anything about a set of 50 website pages of this company. So it's the 6 that we have. And then you can ask the question, who would be ideal contacts for exploring collaboration based on our publication findings? And I paste abstract. I click analyze, and now it will check on this page if there's any key people that might be relevant. Why it would be an ideal collaborators. And then here, ideal contacts, a CSO as a co-inventor, well positioned for these collaborations. You have the CMO, CBO, a board member. So it kind of gives you a recommend team initiate contact. So in this way, we easily identify key contacts that we would like to engage. So what we did is we basically started from university, look at the publications, identify the opportunity for valorization. We selected one of the most promising publications. We then identified which are relevant companies. We segmented different types of companies. We checked what is of their great fit based on the criteria we provided with the positioning, with the messaging. We then found how to identify the right researchers, how to check which research is the right scientific champion to engage with, and then have the AI write an email and IDs or positioning or communicating to that researcher. We then also saw how we could find additional contacts via management or via the websites. Can we do that at scale? So could we do that for multiple companies at once? Well, that's something new that we're developing. No one else has seen it yet. What you can do here is you can select a number of companies. I'm going to keep it small just for the sake of this demo. We can do the collaboration potential assessment. It has still this information filled in. Advanced settings, I can let the AI decide to query. I want to make sure verb is also part of the assessments here. Choose the report style. So here I can say to find ideal strategic industry partners. Backgrounds, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, potential partners. Include concise justification. If you cover any interesting patterns, yes, and then some recommendations. Make strategic recommendations for positioning and messaging to the top candidates. Then you have a summarizing table and a half-page executive summary. So I could save this input as well for my next time I do this kind of report. So if I click evaluate, it will now run the collaboration assessment for each individual company of the first 20 or 25 that we select. It will do the assessment and then provide an Excel file with the outputs, and this output will then be used a landscape report on those opportunities. So while it's doing that, I want to take it from a different spin. I want to see how can you reach out to a lot of scientific potential champions. So let's say we go to publications now, research for powerful drug. We only want to find publication where there's a therapeutic company involved. So we say therapeutics. We could select for publication in the last 2 years. And then we could sort by top journal, but that's not it. So let's say we click AI. And then we ask, extract insights from individual publications. I select all of them. And now I can add a lot of questions, up to 20 questions. So we have this section here, how to do outreach at scale. So the idea is we want to email company researchers with exploring potential collaboration. So I have here the questions that I can ask. So what is the company involved? What type of company is it? List the key company contacts on the publication authors list to reach out to. How strong is the potential for collaboration? What are 3 great ideas for complementarity given our research? And then I'm the author of this publication. I need to add the title. So I have title here. So I add it here. And then add the abstract. All right. So I'm the author of this publication. Then my question is, my goal is to explore collaboration with industry, given the provided publication. So it will analyze now each individual publication, by the way. Compose a concise, tailored cold email to the authors that connects my research to their work. Clearly shows the complementary value. Suggest potential collaboration opportunities. Use specific, convincing, and approachable messaging to gauge interest. Identifies the most suitable type of company contacts amongst the authors to address. and start an email addressing this person with "Dear." If I click on Show Preview, it will now analyze the first 5 publications in the list to give me an idea of what it looks like. So let's see what it comes up with. So the first publication, the title, this company, it's a biotech, key company contact, strong potential, what are ideas for collaboration, and then a cold email, "Dear Yongko Wang, I'm reaching out as a lead author of a recent study on this. While we developed this, I was impressed by your preclinical work on this specifically. Given the strong mechanistic overlap between our classifier and this approach, I believe we could do this and this," and then the ending. Then we see the second one, the third one from AstraZeneca, etc. So let's say we're happy with that. We don't want to adjust our question, which is possible. We can click on download, and now it will do this analysis for all these 97 publications. In fact, you can do this for up to 2,000 publications or patents or grants or clinical trials. Let's look what it does here. So it's already 65 are done for this analysis. So here we are, it's now finished, and now it will generate an export file. So we have the publications, we have the questions we had asked. Here we have the answers. So I could say, show me those with very strong first. And then only where it's pharma company. So then we have these 16 records left, and we see the organizations here. We see who are the people we could engage with. We can see the IDs, we can see the complementary IDs, and we can see the email. Now we see the rest of the publication as well. You can go to the link to find the email address of the person if you want to do that individually. What you can also do is scale it up and say, now I want to export for these 97 publications the authors, including the emails, and it will identify the emails for those people. And this way you could have a system that maybe sends automatically all these emails to these company contacts. So that's an approach how people are using it to scale outreach to find new collaboration opportunities. I know we're already pretty far in time, but there's a few more things I'd like to show. In the meantime, I'm going to check, okay, the report is ready. So if we click on the reports, we see the Excel file with all the evaluations of individual companies. And then we see here introduction and background. We see which could be an outstanding fit. AstraZeneca, why? Global leader, multiple ongoing clinical trials in this topic, etc. So it uses all this recent scientific information that ChatGPT doesn't have access to. It doesn't go that deep. It's not hallucinating here. It often happens as customers tell us they can't trust and need to verify everything in ChatGPT. But here, it's always based on the facts that we find in the scientific data. We see other ones with good potential, not recommended, and why. We see a summary table with the tier and then the key rationale. We see trends and patterns, some key challenges, some opportunities, some strategic recommendations, emphasize clinical validation and scale, align with precision oncology and regulatory needs, etc. Some example messaging, and executive summary. If you remember, I could simply, in companies, click on AI, select the number of companies. Now I just selected 20, but I could be testing how far we can take this. We do collaboration potential. We can choose the analysis, and we choose the report that we want. In a couple of minutes, you have exactly what you need based on the recent scientific information about each of these books. Now, very shortly, I want to have another case. If we start from a patent, let's say we take antibody drug conjugates, and we look into patents, medical patents, academic patents, filed in Europe or US. We have this one here, for example. We have the abstract, we have the claims, we have the full text, etc., and the people and so on associated. I want to ask the AI a question. So I'm going to use the third option, analyze the patent in detail. It was this one here, the third one. And then I want to ask a question. Is this research novel enough to valorize via industry partnerships? What added value does it bring? What targets and diseases is it addressing? Give me some specific types of partnerships and so on. give me key names, etc. So if I analyze this pattern, so let's say it's your own patent, or you're working on developing a patent or technology offer, or if you're working with a lot of technologies at your own university, at your spin-off company or startup, you can in this way have already a quick assessment. This is not using all the data about the companies out there on the topic, but it's using then more general AI knowledge, and it looks for information based on that available in the full text of the patent. So you can see, okay, what has been addressed, what diseases, what targets, what are companies we could work with and why. So it gives some ideas, the most promising ones, etc. Now we want to synthesize actually full report. So we have this patent here with the abstract, the claims, the full text. How can we move from this to find who's potentially interested in this? So let's say I copy just the abstract and the claims, and I do a search for CD97. And I go into publications, CD97, to see who has already done something on this. We could say clinical study publication, CD97. So then we have 25, and we can ask the AI a question, and then select all 50 or all 25, basically. I paste our abstracts and our patent claims here, and then I ask the question, what are novel treatments targeting CD97? Did they succeed? And which ones may signal opportunity to advertise or patented CD to improve treatment outcomes? Below is our patent. Analyze, and now it's analyzed these 25 clinical study publications. So we see the current landscape of targeted therapies. Not describe any approved or late-stage clinical antibody drug conjugates targeting CD97. There's no clinical failures yet reported, so it's mostly preclinical work on this. There's preclinical success, which links a source here, and then out-licensing opportunities. So it could be in oncology companies being interested in immunology-focused biotechs, and so on. So the field's pretty open for clinical development, so that seems a promising opportunity. And then we can go to who might be oncology companies focused on solid tumors and ADCs, for example. So we can change the search and say, okay, in patents, we want to see solid tumor and antibody drug conjugates to find all these patents. I click the AI. I'm going to select a few random ones. And then I'm going to ask this question, which what it does is creating 20 insightful questions, provide a comprehensive overview on solid tumor ADCs. In buttons. So now it comes up with 20 questions I could ask to each of the 900 something patents. So is it focused on solid tumor? Yes, no, or not applicable. Which of the following best describes the main therapeutic modality? So you don't have to be an expert in this topic. You just ask the AI this optimized prompt to understand what's the stage, what's the target, etc. So you have then these questions, which you can then ask. So in the next step, I would typically copy the search. So we stay with the URL, and then I would ask the AI here and extract insights from the individual patents. And I select all of them, and then I add all these questions. So I put them next to each other to copy paste them here. That's something we're going to replace by a one-click solution eventually, so you don't have to come up with all these prompts. It does this out of the box for you. And if I then download, I just did with these emails, it generates a file like this one here with all the questions here being listed and then all the answers, where you could just say, okay, I'm interested in a certain antigen that is, for example, ADEM, and I can see then what is being created for that. Or I can look at CD19, etc. So it gives you an overview of any ADC developed for related to solid tumors, and I can filter through it and so on. Now it gets even more interesting if I just copy paste this, or I import this into ChatGPT. So I uploaded this file before, and then I have a whole prompt that I'm also sharing again in this page here. It's step 7, generate a science-grounded landscape reports. So we basically have different prompts here. Let's say prompt example for strategic partner and landscaping reports. I just copy-paste this. It's a very long prompt. It comes up with weights and scoring, so it's very comprehensive. And of course, it's generated after a lot of testing. I already actually filled it in here. So you can see all the deliverables in the executive summary, ranked strategic partnering candidates with a table with columns, unusual but high payoff partner candidates, trends, 25 list of forward view recommendations, the methodology used, and then I explain how to understand the Excel sheets, how to do the scoring, some weights that I give more for complementarity and strategic fit, output rules, and some optional things, and then the patterns that we were looking into. So what happens then is ChatGPT will do number crunching of all these structured facts from all these patterns that we generated. Once it's analyzed this, it comes up with a pretty interesting report. So it says here, what are the top 15 candidates, and then a score and why, and then the titles of their patents. If we go down further in the list, it has the reports generated, so an executive summary, and then why this company makes more sense to partner with. And this is really looked at from not just what research is this company focused on, but this one is really focused on the specific patented technologies out there, which could be maybe combined in smart ways. Some unusual bets, trends, recommendations, ranked strategic partner candidates with the scoring information, why they ranked in this way, details on the unusual but high payoff partner candidates, interesting ideas that come from this, trends and patterns that can be identified. Then top 25 key partners with pharma, with biotech, and always a short line on why. What's the complementarity? What's the forward view? What are recommendations for outlicensing partners, shortlist, and the diligence checklist for what you need to check, how you also need to prepare best, some risks and some watch outs, and then the methodology and some additional things that I asked. What are key competing ADCs, and which ones, if you combined with ours, what could create a massive increase in value? And then a 1-paragraph abstract. So this is a really science-grounded, nitty-gritty report. Of course, you can tailor it as much as you want, depending on how you prompt it. But the idea is you can analyze thousands of patents in just 1 minute, have all these facts, and then dump it into ChatGPT to synthesize a report based on those facts. If I ask ChatGPT using ChatGPT, Chat app, and AcademicLabs with ChatGPT integrated, it says basically that in the app you have to base a lot of things. In AcademicLabs you have already the data that you can select, that you can use in one click, for example. The knowledge is limited, it must have the latest, it does have access to the structured data sets in AcademicLabs. So these are some key benefits, of course. There's some prompt templates that you can benefit from in AcademicLabs, obviously. And we go via the API, which means that ChatGPT doesn't know who is asking the questions, and this way it's private. It's also not used for training, and AcademicLabs does not know what you're prompting. So in this way, it's very safe, and you can use the best power of ChatGPT. And then some other things. Basically, what it says is the chat app of ChatGPT is good for like creative ideation and so on. In AcademicLabs, it's more for production-ready, consistent, secure, and scalable analysis integrated in the scientific intelligence workflow. That's also what we learned from our customers, from our users. If ChatGPT has produced something and misses a lot of recent things, it's also hallucinating quite a lot. So you need to verify everything. So that kind of goes beyond the goal of doing this kind of analysis. While in AcademicLabs, it's always grounded in the science. This is an overview of some key workflows. Maybe last thing I want to mention is how you can get access to this. We have a lot of these big pharma companies using our platform now. We are going to start with plans for academic users. We weren't really focused on academics so far because we want to have a really good platform, because there's already so much out there. We really want to make sure we have something that differentiates, that helps you a lot. So we provide the same platform, the same capabilities, but at 93 or 99.8% discount. So these are just new plans that we're developing. It's not out there yet, but it will be live soon. We have a free plan with access to almost all in science, not the profile categories, with limited AI credits. You have a student plan, you have a researcher plan, pro plan where you need to look for companies and you need to get a lot more of the AI. And then we have for the AI super users who really want to use all these capabilities in the best possible way to do impactful research. We have a plan for that. And we have also a kind of a project path if you need it temporarily. These things will be available online very soon. If you're interested in this, you can already contact me if it's not available live yet. Happy to help you out setting this up. And as a thank you, we offer you to start with 2 days for free with 500 AI credits. So you can analyze 500 results. Plus, you also get $50 off an annual plan. So if you have a €99 plan, it's 50 off. So it's only 49 for the first year, or 30% discount on a multi-plan throughout the year one. So once you are in the purchase process, you just can use the Research Impact Academy 2025 code to have this discount. You can also use the same code to sign up for free. All right, I hope this helps. I'm happy to answer any kind of questions. Just let me know, and hope to see you on Academic Labs with this kind of workflows. We are making every step that I showed you a lot easier. So these are many recent developments. We learn step by step from our users and from using it ourselves. And we want to remove friction in the process so that eventually you have a one-click solution with some verification steps that can generate exactly what you need. So that's where we're heading, and that's where your input is extremely helpful to make this possible. To find more information, the tutorial that I just showed you, you find this page on link.academiclabs.com/AI tutorials, and our website is academiclabs.com. All right. Hope this helped, and I wish you all the best in your research. I'm happy to answer any kind of questions you may have. Thank you.